marketing lead on Unreal Engine at Epic Games. We are based here in Cary, and we're very happy to sponsor and support the conference once again this year. Here with me is Sergey Galyonkin, who is our Director of Publishing Strategy at Epic. Sergey is also known in the industry as Steam Spy, and we're going to talk a little bit about that service that he started in 2015 today. And I hope that you'll get a lot of really valuable, actionable information that you can use, especially if you're trying to make a living shipping a game. Steam, as we all know, it's become the biggest PC gaming platform, and it's changed a lot over the past few years. And we couldn't have a better expert in the room here to talk about it. And let's get going.
Thank you, Lina. So, I was already introduced, not introduce myself, but I've been working in the game industry for the past many years. I worked for Epic Games for gaming, I worked at distribution for Blizzard, Ubisoft, Sony, and now I'm here. Steam Spy, well, it says Steam Spy works, it's actually pretty solid, it's how Steam Spy used to work. It's kind of like a polling station, polling people's libraries to understand what people hold and how often and how much they play. And it's not precise. It's like any survey, it has a margin of error, it's about sizable margin of error, but it is good enough. For the purpose of this presentation, I've used a 10-day sample, but usually if you go to the site, you will see a 3-day sample, which is not as accurate, but it's more or less real time. There's a ton of fine print, I think I should have read it, but just know it's not perfect. It has some limits and it works most of the time.
Clip Notes does not track DLC or microtransactions. It's tracking games by number of owners and that sort of thing. Let's see. 98% confidence range, though. That's not bad.
Yeah, I think the coverage is basically the standard in the statistical community. I want to go a bit lower, I go to 99%. It would be difficult. Okay, so have you read all of it? So last year was the best year well so far. It's all based just on the amount of games sold, not based on DLCs or microtransactions. All in all, that's $4.3 billion in addressable in our own market. Obviously, not every single penny from those money came through Valve alone, because sometimes people buy games off Steam on third-party reseller sites, sometimes in retail, but Valve does control this market. If you add in free-to-play and DLC and all the other stuff, it could be well over $5 billion. But because there's no way to track it, I can display this on here. The most interesting part about Steam is obviously its audience. Right now, Steam is probably the biggest gaming platform in the West. It's not the biggest gaming platform in the world. The biggest gaming platform in the world actually QQ, and it's solely available in China.
10 cents platform in China.
Yeah. But if you're talking about the market we as developers can address, that's probably the Western market. But at the beginning of this year, Steam had 291 million people that not only bought the game but also play the game, so not bought accounts like real people. And 63 million of them joined as soon as 2017, which is a huge growth for a platform that has been established many years in operation for almost over 15 years. And as you can see, it actually continues to grow, and there's no sign of it slowing down. The number of new users coming in is just staggering. And I guess we have like a snowball effect, where we become a market leader. It's really hard to stop, or for anyone to stop. Retention is also incredible. Obviously, if you think about the gaming terms, it's just pretty much impossible. 57 million people were played in the last 2 weeks, and if you look at the retention by year, while it is slowing down, it is still crazy huge. And it's funny, you can see the drop around the time the new console launched, the first drop. The new drop is probably just the sheer amount of people coming in from so-called countries like China, Philippines. A lot of Steam pros in recent years is coming from outside of the United States and Europe. And people there success and retain, of course.
I have a question for you, Sergey. When did we start to notice the huge growth of Steam use in China, even though it's not officially launched there?
Yes, China is interesting. Steam started to grow in China like really fast in 2015 when GTA 5 launched with full Chinese support and Chinese price. Also, it has a really good virus protection and it had multiplayer. So if you're Chinese and wanted to play a game, you actually have to buy it, which was really unusual for the market back then. China is a huge gaming market, actually has a gaming market as big as the United States, but people want to play mobile and free games there. So GTA 5 kind of told the Chinese audience that there are big games that worth the attention. Yeah, unfortunately, when you see more players coming in, they buy less games. If you're looking at an average person who joined in 2017, a median person only owns one game, and you know which game it is, I guess. And there's actually a sharp increase in the games owned by users, but it's not so bad because if you think about it, if a user joined in 2003, on average, a user owns 15 games, which means one game per year, which is same as for users that joined in 2017, one game per year. So just average people, they don't really buy or play many games, but they do that constantly on a consistent basis. So if we go to top games and see, the situation is pretty good for Valve. I'm not sure about consumers or developers because right now we have 22,500 games on Steam already, and almost 7,500 that were released last year.
So like, let that sink in for just a minute, right? Now, 7,700 games that are released just in 2017, and most people are buying one, maybe two games a year, average consumer.
Yeah.
Right.
And even if you're an average consumer, like a super consumer, I can't imagine a person playing 50 games per day.
Right. And how many people are like waiting for the Steam sale?
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. Situation is well, as any developed, as any mature entertainment market, Steam is heavily top-skilled. So 50% of all revenue belongs to top 0.5% of games, top 100 games. And that is, I would say it's bad or good, it's just how it is, and it is how it is in most markets. If you look into movies, if you look into books, top sellers take the whole and everyone else has to live off the long tail. Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Yeah, there's revenues are estimates growth. I've taken into account the original pricing and sales and sales of Steam, but obviously, you know, make an error. And if you look at the video game PUBG, it's actually doing pretty amazing. And even Cuphead in top 20, and it's an indie title, right? Still bringing in $2 million from PC, and we don't know how much might make it in the middle. Xbox, but I guess it was actually more than on PC. So not a good time to be an indie developer. And people say about Steam being oversaturated and station game world, but actually not the case. Top games are pretty much the same. If to get in the top 20, you have to make $20 million in sales in 2016, same for 2017. I mean, even accounting for margin errors, the situation didn't change much. Top games are selling as well as they used to. And in 2016, I saw a slight decline compared to 2015, but that's just because 2015 was a year of the doubling and both Witcher 3 and GTA 5 releases. There were not such big hits in 2016. And in 2016, the situation grows, but that's again, it's attributable to one particularly popular game, PUBG. The situation for indie developers is not so great, but yeah, the average sales, median number of owners for a game is 500, and some 500, and for an indie game released in 2017, it's just 1,500. Again, it's a median number, and median numbers can be seen if we have a lot of promising marketing, which is the case with Steam. When I started the service, an average median number of owners for a game was 32,000. Now it's down to almost less than 10,000. So it might sound bad, but again, it's not necessarily because people are buying less or because the games are less successful, just because they have many more games competing, and a lot of those games are not good. A lot of those games just do not deserve to sell at all, and they are dragging the averages down. Because if you look at prices, the prices actually, pricing is actually a problem in my opinion, because the average prices are going down, and I feel like it forces a lot of developers launching new products to discount them, even at the beginning. I'm not a fan of launch discounts. I'm not a fan of heavy discounts, because if the game is worse gamers' mind, gamers' time, I believe it also worse gamers' money. And they're going to be discounts anyway. It doesn't mean that you have to launch a title. Because $3 for a game is just, it's an outsourced situation.
Right, and there's something to be said about the perception of value. And if you price too low, people will just assume that it's worth as much as it's priced.
Yeah. Because if you look into top 2,000 games, and top 2,000 games, it's top 10% of Steam, but it's 2,000 games. It's a lot. It's pretty much the same. I've looked into 2,000 to 500 to 2,000, and I see like a slight decrease between 5 and 7%. It could be both attributed to people just scrolling to buy PUBG and not playing anything else, or people just buying all those little cheap games on the long tail, on the end of the long tail. But the situation is not as drastic as some people claim to be. Actually, if you made a good game and you ended up in a top 2,000 games, you'll be making as much as last year. It seems that it's just slightly harder to break into 2,000 games. It's just way more games now. And not just make more games, but also all the old games are still selling. Yeah. So, I mentioned before, most effective games outside of itself. The situation for indies is, the problem is indies is that, well, as you can see, the engagement is crucial, the engagement of people playing the games. It's actually growing, and you will not see spikes around every single Steam sale. People are taking more risks with indie titles, but they are discounted. But just the cost of the number of indie games cannot catch you. It's just overtaking the growth of the audience and the amount of time people are doing this. As I mentioned before, Steam got a lot more users this year. They got increased the user base by 37%, but they by 70%, but they increased the number of games by almost a factor of 2. So it's just, even though it's really happening, it's just not enough useful. The indie audience is smaller than our overall Steam audience, because a lot of people come to Steam just to play the big games, Dota 2, PUBG, GTA 5. People that are coming to play indie games, it's just, there are less of them, but it's still sizable. 65 million people own at least one big indie title, and 24 million people are repeat purchases that hold 5 or more games, 5 or more indie titles. It's pretty much the size of a European country. It is a huge addressable audience. So there should be no worries about the fact that you don't have an audience. Thinking about prices, the following slides, I took the max price that the game had through the year, and this is a number of games released by 2017 by price, by the maximum price, probably launch price or whatever. And as you can see there, it's pretty much a normal curve. You can see the spike in amount of $10 seems to be particularly popular with indie developers, especially because Steam is set up in a way that it highlights games at $5 and $10. They have Steam has special categories for them. So I see a lot of people trying to get into this category with their launch price. If you look at the distribution of revenue, and this one includes PUBG, so just skip the next slide and remove PUBG, you can see a normal curve around $20, and you can also see that the biggest chunk of money went to the games that cost $60, and we were only 80 on that in the last year. So in my opinion, what it proves is that people are less sensitive to the game price, they are sensitive to the game's quality, and if you have a choice to spend more time polishing the game and sell it at a more expensive price, or just sell it right now cheaper, I would prefer the way, I would prefer the publisher game instead of discounting it. Last year I also saw the launch of Steam Direct, and Steam Direct had a profound effect on the number of games released. In September alone, we had saw almost 900 games released, almost 30 games per day. That's a huge number, and it's like an average 55% increase compared to Greenlight, but it's not that bad compared to what Greenlight had. Greenlight had really a situation which we have right now, an oversaturated market with a lot of competitors. Direct just removed some barriers, so we saw about 50% more games coming in, but it was not as drastic as Greenlight. A lot of people complained about Direct. I actually feel like it was about a good thing because Greenlight was broken. All the reporting system was easily abused, and it was just not helpful to developers. So I don't think it's really useful, to be honest. But if you're making a game about robots, dinosaurs and joining, conspiracy would. Conspiracy game about dinosaurs training with robots, I guess that might be a chance. What it says is probably that there are many games in this particular areas, particular text, and they're performing better than average. While we have a lot of team-based games, PvE games, and psychological and explorative games, experimental games, are not doing so well. But I mean, it's no surprise why they call it experimental, right?
I imagine Art Survival Evolved probably has something to do with the dinosaurs time.
Yeah.
Just a hunch.
Well, yeah. Also about China. This slide was supposed to be geography, but it's going to be mostly about China. Steam Hardware Survey, last February, this February actually, Steam Hardware Survey is an official statistics from Steam itself. So 100% correct because it's from Steam. It said that 64% of machines and the Chinese simplified and said how they perform the system language. So they work in mainland China, not in Taiwan, not in Hong Kong, in mainland China. Which led a lot of people to believe that, well, Steam is now a Chinese gaming platform because only 18% of people have United States and other English-speaking countries, better than 64% in China. But we're stuck here.
Battery may have just fell down our clicker. Oh, okay, all right.
But Steam is not even available in China officially. Steam is only available in Hong Kong, and parts of it are banned in China, like Steam communities, Steam forums, and Steam trading. Parts of it are still available, and if you're in China, you probably use VPN anyway, because it's China, that's how it works. So officially, those 64% officially are coming from Hong Kong alone, which is it's not possible. Hong Kong is not that big. And if you look at the Steam Spy data, we can see that, well, yes, there are more players from China, and when PUBG gets released, there will be more players coming from China. But the number of games involved did not increase drastically, and if you look at players, not machines, the situation is not that different. 90% of players, effective players coming from China, and only 5% of games. Still big market, still important, but not 64%. And the reason for that is that when PUBG broke out in China, Sergey has started installing Steam and sometimes started installing PUBG to attract consumers. The thing is, Steam has a cybercafe program that works in Korea and Turkey, but Steam is not available in China. Cybercafe in China do not enjoy this program. So the villagers said they installed Steam, and some of them bought PUBG for people to play. The thing is that most cybercafes in China didn't have security, so they let people access the machines with admin rights, and some of them just Windows XP or all the versions of Windows, and they just wipe them every weekend. It led to a bunch of people playing and cheating from cybercafes. You've heard the statistic that 99.9% of PUBG cheaters are coming from China. Well, I believe that majority of them are not coming from China, but from Chinese cybercafes, because they face no repercussions for cheating. If PUBG bans the machine, it's just banning the machine cybercafe. So as a user, you are not desensitized to stop cheating. You're not desensitized from cheating. And if you're a cafe owner, for you it's just business expense. An hour of play cybercafe costs around $3. You would take PUBG costs like $50. So if you play for 5 hours in your cybercafe already, like, and they have all the other stuff that's not in cybercafes. And even if a machine gets banned, because all the system that cybercafes are using when they pipe out machines, they reset hardware IDs to the machine. So you just reinstall Steam, the account is still banned, the machine is not banned, so you can continue to play on those machines. At some point, cybercafe owners stopped doing that, and Tencent acquired rights for PUBG in China. And I believe Tencent acquired rights in most of the games that are released in China. Tencent platform was the biggest factor to prevent the growth of PUBG in China, and the biggest factor to combat cheaters in the game. Because now they were all looking forward to playing on Tencent version. And Tencent is well known for its approach to fighting cheaters or consuming them. So if you look at the USA, well, the share of the United States on Steam is declining. It's not because the number of players is declining, it's just because the number of players in other countries is growing faster. But the United States still remains the biggest market. While only 14% of players come from the United States, they own 23% of all games. And as a consumer market, the United States is still the most important market on Steam. Look at the comparison with China, the average American user owns 6 times games. But there's one that in which it's succeed. And it's playing PUBG. Again, it's not that discouraging from localizing the Chinese language or any other language. China is, as I mentioned before, is the biggest gaming market in the world. It's not as big on Steam, and that's why looking at European languages often will net more sounds better. Here's some examples of about playing, but people owning indie games. China is actually number 2, right after the United States, just because of its sheer size. But if you look into spending, and spending is how much do they pay for a game, how many games they buy. China is in the bottom because of Russia, who's in a place 9 and 8 respectively. While Germany and UK and France and Australia are in the top. So if you look at the languages talking about the game, I would suggest starting with like the traditional European languages, German, French, Polish, maybe. Spanish. Not as strong as German, French. Yeah. So, in summary, and we will probably talk after that. The best years so far for Steam are more games, more sales, more players. If you ever saw that Valve is going to change something and there's no reason for them to do so, they're doing it better than ever. The strategy is paying out. Steam sales, as in any development, any mature entertainment market, has screwed to the top. And the averages are becoming less and less useful every year because it's just too many games. Look at the averages. Games that are high priced are making more money, surprise. And AAA titles are still the biggest market. China is big, but they don't buy many games outside of PUBG yet. It doesn't mean it's not going to change, fully will. It's just nothing. And whilst Steam Direct costs a lot of games coming in, it's not as important. Its effect was smaller than that of Steam Direct. So,
Cool. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about recent events. So, about a week or so ago, Valve changed their API, and it affected how you could operate inside. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. Now, the change, people think that was connected to Facebook controversy or to GDPR laws in Europe, but the change actually is based on compliance with GDPR. They hit users' inventories and users' gaming libraries by default. which is a good move actually. Privacy-wise, this stuff should not be exposed with username attached to it. Unfortunately, Steam chose to still keep your username, your friends list, your groups, your screenshots, your achievements, and all the other stuff public. So GDPR in Europe that goes live in the middle of May requires all that information to be hidden, and Valve did not comply with that law. So they don't comply with any laws, to be fair, except for American sometimes. They're still not compliant with age ratings in Europe. They're still not compliant with Chinese laws. So it was not surprising. It's just that people assumed that it was a GDPR law, but it was. I think it was mostly to do with trying to protect it. It's not just seems like much of it.
Right, and then, of course, there are some publishers who, make a lot of decisions based on their data, and that's out there. Via Steam Spy or another service, that can complicate things, or, I think you actually had a cool anecdote about Telltale. Are you able to say anything about that, like how?
Yeah, well, I won't name the company.
I mean, there's been lots of people who have basically
the company is
gone on to
a successful publisher that they got the publishing for Steam Spy launched at the level. Now we're able to affiliate game developers and games based on Steam Spy.
And there are countless independent developers out there who become, their own publishers because they can make data-driven decisions, based on what the market is doing. I think that's no surprise to anyone, but, what I had up here originally on this slide here is that it's going away, but actually...
Well, nice, it's not going away. I have a solution to this problem that does not rely on Steam APIs as well. I have it running as a test. I just set it up this morning. It'll probably go live over this weekend, but I have time to actually build it. And at this stage, it will not be exposed to the general audience because I'm still tweaking it, but so far the results have been pretty good, real promising. So if you're on the indie developer or rely on Steam Spy, you'll still be able to. So maybe not to the same extent because the margin of error is going to be, it's not going to be bigger, it's different. Steam Spy is now less accurate in big games, but actually more accurate in small games, which is not what it used to be.
So a lot of the stories that if you follow the game industry press where they were writing that Steam Spy is dead, it's over, it's done, it's finished, it's actually not true. As of now, Sergey's been working on building a neural network.
It's more complicated.
A couple of days ago. No big deal.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I think that's really exciting. This data source will still be available, and it will help. I think developers and publishers maintain a lot more autonomy and be able to make more informed decisions. So I think that's really great news for everyone.
Yeah, with that access to information, access to set of tools will let people make informed decisions. Obviously, people can still make wrong decisions based on data. Well, data doesn't tell anything. We still have to test it, right? Having data is better than having data.
Right, and there haven't been very many alternatives to Steam Spy over the past few years. You spend $100,000 on market research, which some people like publishers have no problem doing. But if you're an independent team and you're trying to decide what sort of data development, what is reaching saturation in the market in terms of genre or that sort of thing, you need to know, you need to be able to identify where there may be demand for your product.
Yep, and market research actually Steam Spy is not that great for overall market research. There are a bunch of others that you should use when you're researching that market. Steam Spy is only for Steam and some extent. But yeah, as an instrument in the tool set, I think it's important.
So, what other platforms are attractive in time? I think we should talk at least a little bit while we're all here, about strengths we see on console, strengths we see on mobile. We just got back from the Game Developers Conference, and one of the messages that we really try to convey there is that you can bring a full AAA experience from PC and console over to mobile now. Of course, we're pushing Unreal because we've got the proof in the pudding there with, like last year we were talking about Lineage 2 Revolution launching in Korea and made over, $100 million just in South Korea in the first month, right? That was a massively multiplayer game in your market. And now you've got games like Ark Survival Evolved launching on mobile, full experience. It's a lot of fun, it's really cool. Features some support that on mobile, that's doing well. So I mean, in Steam has become so much more like the App Store. Sheer volume of product is it can be difficult to get noticed, right?
Yeah, mobile is actually getting noticed on iOS actually now easier than on Steam, which is ironic. But I would, depends on the game really. A lot of games that thrive on Steam will do it based on their own gaming consoles. I'm talking PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, obviously depending on the title. But if you're developing a target with a cross-platform agent or multi-platform agent, you should be looking into gaming consoles in addition to your PC. And if you have the resources, you should be aiming for simultaneous launch or at least a launch window where you launch one platform, several months later you launch another platform. Because, again, it should not be surprising to people in the United States, but a lot of paying customers pay game adoption, paying for games, playing on consoles. And if the game is successful on PC, a lot of those people will still not play it because they prefer to play on the big screen. So if you take your time and put resources support on the station, you will be well rewarded with sales. Anecdotally, I saw several games that are ported to the PlayStation like 6 months later after PC, and they same revenue as on Steam. Station probably even more than 6 months later. I can imagine that it should be even better if you launch it at the same time. This sort of thing. I haven't built all data on Switch, but Switch is a different beast because it's getting a bit harder to launch on Switch, and Switch store is not as robust as Xbox or PlayStation store, unfortunately. But so far, at least for people who managed to get a Switch audio, it has been an amazing platform. The audio there is less critical about visual quality and it's more likely to be nice quality. It's pretty much a mobile problem.
That's also good.
Yeah, it's a free-to-play title. Well, Steam is a normal place for free-to-play now, that has to be. But mobile phones are amazing for that. And you should look into this market.
All right, so now we talked a little bit about pricing strategy already. Aside from Steam, what are your thoughts on, someone's trying to go across the platform? What are some of the there?
Well, I believe it's important to have different pricing models for the same products. Launch for like different pricing models, starting at $40. And I see a lot of indie developers on Steam doing the same. Usually they don't have like two pricing models, the base games or the base games with the soundtrack, which again, it's still better than just having one pricing model. The thing is about indie titles is that usually, or often, indie titles have a colorful, small, dedicated audience. Not all of people are buying indie games, but people who do, they usually care about this game and this developer and are willing to spend a lot of money on the title. So in this case, it makes sense to create a special edition, like a collector's edition of Souls, a digital deluxe edition for them, so they would be able to help developers give them more money. And I think it's the right approach because if a person doesn't have a lot of money for a game, or in their country or something like that, you still have the base version that is usually cheap. But if a person wants to spend a lot of money, especially at a pre-order, we saw really good results with people buying more expensive editions because they feel it's worse.
Let's talk about discoverability. This is obviously the number one issue facing indie developers trying to get their game noticed. What are some of your top recommendations? I know I have my own, but I would love to hear.
Steam is awful for discoverability, unfortunately. Steam's problem is that they prevent any incoming traffic from other sources to affect the algorithms actually finding them. Well, they do have Google Analytics stuff. You can track the conversions here. So even if you want to monitor from Facebook, you won't be able to tell if it's a good decision or not. And all that actually really cautious about any, which is Steam having traffic, they are afraid that it's going to affect ranking platform, and they do rely on algorithms a lot. So my approach would be, at least what I would recommend, is do the usual stuff, going to influencers, trying to go to game conferences, going to press in some cases. Press is, well, at least from what I saw, is heavily console skewed, but it's the press release is heavily console skewed. If you're trying to sell the next World War, the press is the main. If you're trying to sell the next title, not so much. People are less likely to buy games based on press recommendations, but they are likely to buy games based on influence recommendations. I guess it's just people trust the influences a bit more when it comes to small titles.
I think there is a lot to be said about influencing programs and, easy key distribution like mailers, Evolve PR as a platform that's kind of white labeled and, we just automate a lot of that stuff and target both press and influencers by platform, genre, whatever, like they build.
I use terminals.
And we use them, terminals.io, we actually use them for like you said, the press can be very skewed towards console and AAA. Of course, it's awesome if you can find the right people and research and find who's covering what. There are folks out there who will write about your change, but it's still there's the signal to noise ratio.
Yeah, it's huge, and influences. If you look at the influences are mostly most of them are gamers. They like gaming and stuff they do because they love playing video games. If you can get the influences excited about your title, it's going to be hard to get gamers excited as well. Which is pretty much the first test case.
Okay. And I think the biggest piece of advice is don't leave marketing for the last minute. It's really got to be, a marketing plan, like as you don't wait until close to launch to say, oh, well, probably market this title. I can't tell you how many times, we've seen a really awesome game that looks fantastic, super talented team, come along and like a few weeks before launch, like they get in touch with us and we're like, okay, well, we'll try to like move as many levers as we can, but by then it's really too late.
Yeah, they should be starting the marketing here the game. I would say as soon as possible. AAA titles right now, they also do 6 months window. They start marketing game 6 months before the release, but that's because they are able to spend a lot of money in a short period of time. Because in the indie developers, they usually have these kind of resources, so you might probably do that as soon as possible.
Right, and I don't think you have to have that big of a window if they announce and launch. Start thinking about it and build a plan, and because it takes time to line up all of it. Whether you're buying media, out to influencers, building a press list, building relationships, and network like hell. Meet as many people as you can. Go to the conferences. In mega booth with PAX is wonderful. We sponsor them, and we give developers using Unreal to developer funds on top of that sponsorship, so that they can get there and use equipment and have everything they need to make a great presentation. Using Unreal, we have Unreal Dev Grants where you can apply. You must have a working prototype in Unreal before we'll consider it, but other than that, the application process is so easy. It's a Google form with, like working playable stuff, video description. Get out there to the shows, apply to all the different indie programs. What else would you think?
That's pretty much it. I feel like they talk about conferences. Conferences are less important for game marketing and mostly for the digital game. And I see a lot of this, it's just repeating each other. It helps obviously on Twitter, but your audience might not be able to the audience is probably on YouTube and on other channels. So don't forget about all those channels. And pick your shows. You can go everywhere. So pick the one that you believe is going to be more likely to be influencers are not necessarily, people making videos for YouTube. A person that is just knows a lot of guys, it might be totally might be another place to push his game. In Europe, Gamescom is a good show, and they have good programs for this, so you can participate there, which you offer from, well, obviously it's on platform from the United States. PAX is a good choice.
PAX is great.
Yeah. States.
And, there are different programs around E3. Like I know that the Indie Exchange mix into a great event. It's like an evening event at E3 a lot of people come back to that. So you can apply to that and show your people there. You can afford to like be on the floor. I mean, it's looking at space is pretty expensive. But that's one option. Anyways, we'll be around if you want to say hello and ask any questions. We'll shuffle out of this room in a little bit. But for now, like, why don't we open it up to Q&A? We have about 9 minutes left. Questions? Okay, back there?
Yeah, for all the slides, I just want to know what your definition of indie was.
Okay, so the
What's
question is, what is our definition of indie?
Well, it's kept blurred recently, but I would say the definition of indie is an independent team that does not provide publishing for financing or for content ideas that might use publisher for publishing.
Yeah, and when I think about indie, in my definition, like, you're kind of looking at more like 50 people or less. Otherwise, you're kind of in that middle ground where,
Yeah.
like, you're probably looking at taking on a publisher, but it's a smaller team and you're, a bit bootstrapped with the budget. Other questions? Yes?
In your slides, you had a list of people and there's 5,000 and you also said that there were a lot of
Okay, so the question there was, I'm talking about all the indie titles, the influx of all the low quality stuff. When you filter out that low quality stuff, and you're looking at, number of people that own games, what does that start to look like?
Well, that was pretty familiar users that own 5 games, 5 indie games. The thing is that it's heavily skewed to the developers, as you can imagine. I didn't do that filtering because for me it's really fun to tell what is a good quality game and what is a bad quality game based on data. You have to play it, and I can't. It's just amazing. So that's why I saw some people, I saw a presentation at GDC where a person said, well, all those games I was just counting them as shitty titles. Well, I cannot do that because I have no data to suggest that those were bad titles. Because if you look at user ratings, a lot of those less selling titles actually have good user ratings. The people that actually bought the title like it, right? It's just not enough people bought it.
Right. And there are a lot of good games.
Yeah.
Played.
Yeah, exactly.
Back here?
You mentioned earlier about starting your marketing in advance of the title launch. How do you thought about the role of crowdfunding campaigns, Kickstarter or Fig, into that marketing plan?
Crowdfunding and Kickstarter, how does that funnel into your marketing plan? My philosophy is that crowdfunding is really a marketing tool. Most people aren't going to shell out for a game unless it looks like it is like awesome and ready to play right now. The crowdfunding market has become more and more competitive. Just like you've got a lot more games on Steam, you have many games launching Kickstarters and Indiegogos and that sort of thing. But I think it takes putting together a really awesome, slick pitch video and really clear deliverables and rewards for players. And then it also takes a lot of planning because you need to have publicity around that campaign.
Yeah, I feel Kickstarter has become a marketing tool as well. I say that before, like maybe several years ago, Kickstarter was really great for games. This nostalgia nerve. They don't make games like that anymore. They didn't make games like Double Fine Venture until they started. So now you can't launch Kickstarter for a venture game because there are plenty of venture games. They didn't make games like Pillars of Eternity, for example, and that's why people back Pillars of Eternity. Right now you have many games like that. So if you can find a niche where you can prove to your audience that nobody makes games like that and you can make a game like that, well, then probably you can use Kickstarter for financing. But right now, it is
that's
more.
one of the exceptions, right? Yeah. The days of funding most of the games like through crowdfunding are over, but it still can be a valuable tool. How does Valve Hunt complying with international law affect indie games, and how does Nintendo's independence affect indie games?
Well, the fact itself doesn't follow international laws, does not affect indie titles much, because authorities in other countries that usually pay much attention to indie titles, but the others indie title becomes really big. Germany has special laws about swastikas and violence in video games, but unless you're Wolfenstein, they will not pay attention, and Steam does not comply, Keynote has to comply when it comes to that. Russia has laws about World War II history, same-sex characters. They are not bad, they have to be, the game has to be rated 18 plus and having an age game, but they don't really enforce it. So unless you get on the bad end of a stick with the local media and the local government, you should be fine. China requires every single game to be displayed to China to pass anti-addiction laws certification and cultural certification, but PUBG didn't. And people still play PUBG in China because, yeah. But on the other hand, the fact that PUBG is a really popular game in China, Chinese government is actually looking into banning Steam in China overall because of PUBG. Because they said, well, we will not let PUBG be played in China until it's certified because it's against communist values, whatever the things. And that's why right now they might enforce this. And I don't know if you follow the story, but Russia recently started enforcing a ban on Telegram, and it's messy because they didn't close Telegram. They banned 20 million IP addresses, banning banking system, banning a bunch of video games, banning retail transactions, banning airport tickets, but not banning Telegram at all. So you probably don't want to be in this situation. But there is no way. I mean, as an indie developer, there is no way you could just read on all the laws in every single country. I just can't imagine doing that. That's why you mentioned Nintendo. Nintendo is actually compliant with laws in the market they do operate. And Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, they will tell you about any laws that you have to go to if you want to launch into this market. Which, in my opinion, it is good. I think it's safer for developers.
So yeah, we have saturation on Steam, but we still want to be able to release an indie title and do marketing and support for it. Are there like alternate types of platforms you can put the game out in addition to Steam and kind of circumnavigate the saturation?
Right, so you have a PC game, you want to launch on Steam, you're fighting saturation, where else can you go? Certainly there's GOG.com. Fine.
No, you don't go to GOG. No, it's just tiny. It's really nice guy, but it's just too small. The thing is that you go into Steam mostly to get the audience, right? The biggest benefit of Steam to game developers is they own 300 million players. You probably can launch the game on your own, because we managed it, right, without being on Steam. But it requires huge marketing spend. And sometimes, I mean, you could spend this money and promote your game on Steam. Sometimes you could launch outside of Steam. And you don't have to be Epic Games to do that. I mean, if you look at the biggest game in the world called Minecraft, it's not on Steam. It was not launched on Steam. It was available through the developer's website, right? But this is still possible. It's way harder. Steam, in exchange for the 30%, they not only provides money to users that can also play the game, but they also provide watching service, they provide dates, they provide all this infrastructure that will take time to develop on your own. So in this case, like I don't have a solution for you. If you want to launch a new title on PC, you'll probably have to go through Steam, but look at PlayStation, look at Xbox, Nintendo Switch. Those are good platforms. And it could be a major source of income for a community to grow.
I have one more over, I think, one right, yes.
Yeah, you were talking about the top games on Steam, and what's the criteria for the top game? I mean, if you're looking at highest earners, it's 80 to top, and then you do sort on earnings, that kind of a double hit.
So what's the criteria for top game?
Well, that's revenue.
Revenue. Yeah, we're looking at a couple hundred, revenue.
Yeah.
Okay, one, last one here.
You were in charge of discovery, operation, market,
Well, I haven't remembered the algorithm altogether. I believe it's not an official platform that people like. And my intention is I do algorithms. That's what I love. But some problems cannot be solved with algorithms, as we know, with Facebook and other PCs, Steam. So I would just rely on other methods of discovery. And the discovery problem is not unique to Steam. We have a discovery problem with movies, we have a discovery problem with books, and it has been solved by multiple approaches. You still have marketing, you still have people's recommendation, you still have all those rating sites and so on. So it's not hard to find a movie to watch. But it's not hard to find a movie to watch because you're not entering a cinema like, oh shit, what should I watch, right? You're not doing that. If you go to the movies, you probably know what you're going to watch. If you go to a bookstore, you probably already decided what book you want to buy. And that's the same. The discovery problem is usually solved outside of the store, not inside the store. The fact that Steam and Valve wants to solve it inside the store, I believe is not a solution.
There you have it. We'll be outside here if you want to chat a little bit more. Thank you so much.